opposite photo shoots. Because I know as being both, I've modeled and I've been on both sides of the camera as a model and as a photographer. And usually it's the opposite. You get 5 good ones and 500 bad ones.
And then the funny other thing also about them is that they don't really look dated. I mean, the funny thing is when you look at him, I mean, obviously some of them, the hairstyles and things, but they look kind of just there. So that was the second thing we wanted to show, is this kind of iconic sort of manufacturing of his image. And then I think the final thing which we want to show is that, you know, he really is passionate about people doing their own thing, finding out what they're good at. Not, you know, and I think he's the opposite of kind of the rock star as God and all that. He basically says, you know, be your own rock star, or be whatever you want to be, you know, and actually fulfill yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean being hugely successful. It's actually about being true to who you are.
Yeah, I think it's about discovery. To me, David Bowie's message is one of self-discovery.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why, particularly in the 70s, with, you know, changes in kind of sexuality, identity, and just the kind of breakup of, I guess, a traditional society, why he was so popular at that time. But I think it's as relevant today as then.
It's very relevant today, because I mean that's just it. That's the journey of self-discovery is really just part of the human condition, and that's always going to be a timeless thing. For
also, at the end of the day, that's all there is. I mean, that's who, you know.
Sure, internal and external contemplation of who we are and what we are to each other and the universe.
And so I think, you know, he's he's got it in his last album. You know, the quote from St. Catherine of Siena: "Find out what God wanted you to be, and you'll set the world on fire."
Yes.
I mean, you know, everybody's now obsessed about celebrity and kind of making money, but I don't think that's you know, there's many ways you can set the world on fire. So I think, you know, one of the great things, I don't know how it worked out here, but certainly in London, with so many people, you know, wrote in the you know, the visitors book saying, you know, I just feel really inspired to go and do something. And I think sort of that's one of the things that any museum and art gallery should be about. It's not about all the stuff from the past, and, you know, and all that, important as though that is. It's about what's happening now and about encouraging people to go out and be themselves, as you obviously discovered.
That's, you know, I mean, it was sort of a manifest destiny for me to be here for that reason. I had just started my own fashion line, and I was sitting there sewing the fashion, you know, sewing some of my designs that I was coming up with when, you know, they sent me the screener of the documentary, and I didn't know what was going to be in it. I knew it was about David Bowie. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching it, and I go, oh my God, it's fashion related. With my garments in my hand, and I said, I have to go see this thing in person.
Well, I think the thing is, even if you don't like his music, come and see the fashion. If you don't like the fashion, go and see the photographs.
And I love everything. So you mentioned that there was another artist that you guys were looking into to do something like this. Who was it?
I can't. Well, I don't want to say, because I still want to do it, and I think it's bad. You know, it's like all these things. It'd be bad luck. I think it's. I mean, the thing is that. It does take a lot of planning, and one of the big problems is that there's so much intellectual property right issues mixed up in this about who owns the rights to things. You know, often, you know, there've been, you know, big legal problems, particularly when bands fall apart. You know, they all end up at each other's throats. So one has to tread carefully, and we'll see. I'll invite you to be able to get it to happen.
Well, now maybe I can make it happen for you. But I'm useful that way.
Yeah, no, it's but the other thing is that, of course, younger artists now, some of them, they're so sort of business orientated.
I know, yeah.
But of course, that is usually, you know, that they're not going to make, you know, that actually in the long run, you can't manufacture fame quite. I mean,
you cannot. No, I say that all the time. Yeah. I always say, you know, if you have money, the marketing behind you, you might get a lot of downloads and have what I call a career. But are you going to be remembered in history? And that kind of fame you can't pay for. It has to. It really does. To become an icon that's remembered as more than just maybe one song that made money is a completely different thing than being, you know, even a successful just musician.
Well, I think you know, in 100 years' time, people will be listening to David's music. They'll be looking at images of David, and they're wondering how on earth did he look so good. But I think
he still does.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a. I hope a lot of people come and see the show here. So
I hope so too. And are you going to have any plans to take it to any other cities in America?
No, I mean, this is, as far as I know at the moment, this is the only place in America. We'd love it to go, America's a huge place, but it's going on to Paris and then Melbourne and Australia and then back to Holland. And I think the other thing is you can only do an exhibition to so many places. And, I think, if people come along and say, well, I've done an exhibition in a different way, I say, well, actually, go and start doing another one, because I think it's such there's lots of exhibitions about Picasso and Matisse.
Sure.
And I think
you're kind of launching the next generation of historical artists, and one day there probably will be whole museums filled with this kind of thing of a lot of rock stars and actors and people that were iconic in our time period. So I think that's really cool. I mean, I'm talking about 300 years from now. 300 years from now, some of these costumes could be, at the Louvre or something.
No, I think they will. I think they will be, and I think I think that what Bowie stands for will still be as relevant. I mean, I'd hope we're in a world where everybody can do what they like. But I think it'd be beyond my lifetime, given the current rate of progress we're making.
Yeah, right.